Welcome to 10 p.m. with Galinsky. I am with you, and I'm going to rush to get my guest in tonight because he's on a tight schedule. He was just on NY1, and he's got a bunch of things coming up. So, ladies and gentlemen, good friend, mentor, collaborator, and organizer of communities across the color spectrum. Please welcome to the show, Jamal Joseph. Hi, Jamal.
No. Hey, man, Robert.
We're live.
Good to be with you, brother.
Great to see you, and thank you for being here with us. I know your time is super tight, so we're going to jump right into this. I'm looking, just so everybody knows, I'm looking left and right at different chat windows so that I can see who's in the room and who wants to ask questions. And I see already Destiny Gay is with us, Carrie Ravelli is with us, Turco Ono, Mark Schumann, my niece Alicia Galinsky is with us, Amy Alt. So we got a good crowd building already.
Carrie, how are you? Carrie is a City Kid alum. How you doing?
All right, Carrie Ravelli Lavalli. Excellent. Keith Davids is with us as well. Keith's a great friend from Texas. So you've been pretty busy, right? And I want to jump into, for our viewers, the Black Panther Party. And a lot of, I think, what we're going to talk about is based on the fact that where I come from, where I was brought up, with the values I have, but also the misperceptions. So can you tell us a little bit about what the Black Panther Party's real mission was? And I know it's something, there's a 10-point plan, but go ahead and elaborate just a little bit on the Black Panther Party's mission.
I'll tell a quick story that explains a lot of what the Panthers were about and a lot of the misconceptions that people have. And it started with a riot. It started with me being caught up in the middle of the rebellion that happened when Dr. King was assassinated. And a group of disciplined men dressed in army fatigues and dashikis and leather coats pulled me out. And I was being chased by some cops. I hadn't done anything, but I was a Black kid in the wrong place at the wrong time. And they created a wall of separation between the police and I. And the cop said, we're looking for, and he said, stop running, young brother. And the cop said, we're looking for looters. And these men said, there are no looters out here. And we're a disciplined community patrol, making sure that no innocent people get hurt tonight. And with that, the cops backed away, never seen that. And they told me to go home. I found out that they were part of something called the Black Panther Party. And we found out where their headquarters were. At that time, there wasn't an office in the Bronx or Harlem. We rode out to Brooklyn. And my friend said, when you get there, the Panthers are serious. You're going to have to prove yourself. There's no getting out. It's like the mafia. And it may send you on a mission. You may have to kill a white dude to prove yourself. And I'm like, kill somebody? I'm in the church choir. I'm an honor student. I have to go to school in the morning. But
how old were you?
I couldn't be a punk in front of my boys. I was 15 years old. And we're sitting in the meeting, and there's all of these cool Panthers, older brothers and sisters, decked out in their Panther gear or afros, dashikis. But I want to put it in perspective. I was 15, so everybody was older to me. But they were 18, 19, 20, 21. That's how young the members of the Panther Party was. And by the way, if you look at those pictures of progressive white organizations like Students for a Democratic Society and the anti-war movement and the Young Lords, you'll see how young everyone was. So the face of what we're seeing now is very similar to the face of what we saw 50 years ago with those protests. The person running the meeting was explaining the Panther 10-point program. It talks about housing, medical care, fair trial by a jury of your peer groups, nothing about killing white dudes, assaulting the cops. I jump up and I said, choose me, brother, arm me. I'll kill a white dude right now. The whole room gets quiet. The man running the meeting calls me over, and I'm standing next to the desk. You know, he's sitting behind the desk. He reaches into the bottom drawer. My heart is pounding. I think he's going to give me this big ass gun. And he hands me a stack of books. Autobiography of Malcolm X, Frantz Fanon, Solo Nights by Eldridge Cleaver, Che Guevara. And I look at it, you know, I said, I thought this is, you know, some kind of a test because of what my friends had said. I said, excuse me, brother. I thought you were going to arm me. And he said, "Excuse me, young brother, I just did." And then as I'm walking back to my seat, he said, "Young brother, let me ask you a question since you came in here so mad at white folks." He said, "Of all of the cops in the community who were beating people up, locking people up, shooting people down, if they were black and all of the victims, the people getting arrested were white," he said, "if all of the stores in the community that are ripping people off with high prices, spoiled vegetables, rotten meat, if they were owned by black people and everybody getting ripped off was white," he said, "and all of these jive time, lying, fascist pig politicians," he said, "if everybody, the president, the senators, the Supreme Court, if they were all black and all of the poor, oppressed people were white, would that make things correct?" And I thought for a second and I said, "Well, no, sir, it seems like it would still be wrong." And for the first time, he smiled and he said, "That's right, young brother. This is a class struggle for human rights, not just a race struggle for civil rights. Study those books so you know what real revolution is about." And the Panthers had a slogan, and it was "all power to the people." And someone would come out, whether it was a meeting or speaking to a crowd, and you go, "All power to the people." And people would say, "All power to the people." And then you would do a call and response. And you would say, "Well, that means black power for black people." And everybody would go, "Yeah." You said, "But that means white power for white people. It means brown power for brown people, yellow power for yellow people, and X power, red power for red people, and X power to anybody that was left out." And so you go, white power for white people, they have the power. Well, it is true that a lot of people in power, in the seats of power, happen to be white men. When you look at the Senate, the Congress, when you look at the Fortune 500 companies. But the reality of America today is the same as it was 50 years ago, 100 years ago. There are more white families on welfare than there are black families. There are more white families who are hurting than black families in so many ways, or at least in the same boat that we're in. But we're not allowed to see that because we're taught that if you're white, it's all right. If you're black, get back. But when you talk to the realities of the people in these communities, they're hurting just like black communities. They're going through the same things. And what the Panther Party tried to do is to build those coalition. It was called the Rainbow Coalition. White people couldn't join the Black Panther Party, but there were close alliances and friendships with organizations working in their communities to make change, but letting them know, listen, I might be an anti-war protester, I might be against the war in Vietnam, but now I'm making a connection that understands that the way the United States military occupies Vietnam and the Vietnamese people are being brutalized is no different from how the police department is occupying black communities, and that they're protecting property and not people, which is why, and we see it today, someone could pick up the phone, a grandmother in a black community saying, "Someone looks like they're burglarizing my house." "I think so because they broke the window and they've got one foot inside my apartment." They'd be, "Okay, man, we'll try to get someone there." Someone calls from a big company saying there is a black guy who's walking while black and looks like he's thinking about doing something. The cops are there before he can hang up the phone. So we're dealing with an institution of policing that was built on protecting property. Remember, the first police forces in this country were slave patrols, whose idea was to capture runaway slaves, the worst crime you could commit. Why? Because that was the backbone of the economy. So if I was a slave that wanted to run away and free myself, I was guilty of theft. Me trying to get to the north, I was stolen property because I didn't belong to myself. So this idea of power to the people and this idea of love for the people, I heard the word love the people, serve the people in the Panther Party more than I heard in church. You know, when grandma used to make me come to church every morning.
Yeah.
And that's what makes you a servant of the people and a real organizer.
Now I want to jump to a photograph that is stunning and beautiful. There you are. What are you, 16, 17 there?
In this one, I was had already been to prison once for the Panther 21 case and was leading a march in New Haven. I was 17 years old.
New Haven. Wow, I spent a couple of years in New Haven. Right in front of, this is in front of the Panther office.
And look at young Jamal holding what? Not a gun, but a book.
A weapon called a book.
We did so much studying in those days. And one of the things I want to say about the protests and the resistance that's going on is that when we marched in those days and you stayed over, so say you went to New Haven or say you went to North Carolina to march or to protest something, afterwards people would get together. And again, black, white, brown, yellow, and you studied, you talked about the history of struggle and revolution tactically. What did they do in China? What did they do in Cuba? What did they do during the civil rights movement? The bus boycott that changed things in the South was weeks of planning, in order to pull that off. It wasn't just Rosa Parks refusing to give up her seat. It was that and all of the strategy that came around it. So that book is a weapon.
That's beautiful. Let's look at a couple more real quick here. Now, this one is actually the cover of your book, which we're going to talk about in a second. But here you are again. Talk about the wardrobe, because again, like for a white guy growing up, it was, ooh, these guys with their dark glasses and their collars and their black leather and their, their militant look. And so did that aid the idea of, I remember you saying J. Edgar Hoover says the most dangerous thing to the security of our country is the Black Panther Party. And the main project you're working on is feeding kids breakfast.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, well, that was part of the Panther swagger. We were a disciplined organization, a paramilitary organization. We knew everybody had a leather coat in their closet and that black beret. We also knew the symbol of the Panther as being one of the toughest cats in the jungle. And the thing about the Panther is that they don't attack until you back them into a corner. And what we were saying in the black community and with the Black Panther Party is we have been backed into a corner and we're fighting back. It wasn't random action though. We had patrols in those communities where it was legal, those states where it was legal. The Panthers carried weapons, they carried shotguns, rifles, but also law books, and would observe the police the legal distance of 25 feet away, read the law to the person who the police were arresting, letting the cops know that they were observed, and then following that person to the precinct to make sure that they weren't brutalized, that their family was notified, and to help raise their bail money. But in addition to that, we realized that police brutality was just one of the things that this system of exploitation and capitalism was doing. So you showed a picture of the Panther Free Breakfast Program.
Yeah, I'll do that again.
So people were talking about, well, black kids just aren't as smart and they're unruly. And our leadership said, we had younger brothers and sisters, some were young parents. And we said, well, maybe it's this. Maybe a kid is sitting in first grade or kindergarten and their teacher is saying 3 apples plus 2 apples equal 5 apples, and their stomach is growling. Maybe they can't pay attention. So we organized a program. This is real important. No government grants and certainly no permission. We would go to churches and community centers and ask, could we use their dining room? We would go to stores in the community and ask for donations of food, not money. We would show up there at 5:30, 6 in the morning and start cooking breakfast. And eventually we would get grandmothers and mothers to come and volunteer with us. And you put out a flyer, and the first week you'd be feeding 10 kids to get breakfast before school. By the end of the month, it would be 500 kids. At the height of the breakfast program, the Black Panther Party was feeding 50,000 kids nationally. And this became the model of the breakfast programs, the lunch, and now the dinner programs that we have all across the country. It took young activists, again, not elected officials, not from foundations, but seeing a need and addressing a need. And again, I want to say to young activists, Robert, it's important to organize people around their needs, not just the offenses, not just treating our wounds and saying no more of the brutality, but connected with our oppression is poverty, is hunger, is lack of health care. And the Panthers were in the community each and every day doing that work, so that when it was time to demonstrate, or when it was time for the community to come out and stand with the Panthers because the police were trying to raid the office, they came out because they knew these organizers. They knew these men as women who, when they said they loved the community, they meant it. And maybe they didn't agree with every single thing we said when we talked about revolution and the end of capitalism. They knew one thing. They knew when we said that we loved the people and we were serving the people, that we were proving that by our actions each and every day.
Okay. If you people are watching, if you want to know more, this is the book, Panther Baby, A Life of Rebellion and Reinvention, Jamal Joseph's story. I've read it. I've gone back to it to read sections of it when I need inspiration. It's a great book, and I'm my chat jockey. I don't have a disc jockey or a video jockey. I have a chat jockey. She's going to put the link in there, not an Amazon link, but another link where you can get Panther Baby.
Right on. Thank you for that.
Yeah, yeah. And dig in. It's a great book. I have a question. I've never asked you this. You know, part of the story, the legend of you, Jamal, is you were asking people at some particular point of revolt, if you will, to burn Columbia University to the ground. You know, decade later or so later, whatever it is, here you are, at one point chairperson of the film writing and screen program. You're still there. You're a professor at Columbia University in the film program. Was there ever a moment when they said, you know, we remember 2 decades ago? Did you guys laugh about that when you, how did you apply? How did you circle back to become employed at the place?
So I was on bail on the Panther 21 case, and if we have a moment, let me talk about that case, because it's significant in terms of, you know, when they come to get you legally. We have a clear picture of what happens when the police come to get you physically. You know, we have, you know, brother George Floyd and sister Breonna Taylor, who was murdered in her bed in her sleep. You know, we have brother Aubrey, who was jogging while black. But I was out on bail in the Panther 21 case, and the Columbia University students had shut the campus down. They would do that on the regular. When you look at those colleges that were hotspots during the 60s, protesting the war in Vietnam, protesting what was happening in black communities, protesting injustice, all kinds of injustice. Columbia University was there, San Francisco State was there, Kent State, many places. They had shut the campus down, opened it up to the community. I mean, one of the reasons why you can walk freely through Columbia as a community person is because of the work that those students, white students and black students, did. And they invited me to be a speaker. And there were different organizations. There was Iwakun, which was an Asian progressive group. It means the Harmonious Fist, the Young Lords, Students for a Democratic Society. They brought the Panthers up last, and I knew our job was to get the crowd going. So you have to picture community folks, but probably 3,000 or 4,000 people. And my speech went something like this: brothers and sisters, had to have that 60 cadence. If Columbia University, that's that bullhorn voice, doesn't recognize that the war in Vietnam is a war of capitalist exploitation, and that the United States pig military occupies Vietnam, the way the New York City pig department is occupying Harlem, we're trying to occupy this campus, then brothers and sisters, you need to do more than take this campus over today. You need to burn the damn place down. Of course, the students were cheering and everybody, and that was the job of that. And then afterwards, they had taken over a building, and we had a great, you know, meal together, and people talked about different aspects of the struggle. Well, fast forward now, we're talking 30 years later, and I'm walking across campus, and I'm a professor of film. Then I was an assistant professor, just starting. Now I'm a full professor. And by the way, if you've been on Columbia's campus, the center of the campus is this big dome building, known as Low Library, and that's where the university president's office is, and you know, one of the libraries. And in front of that is the statue of Alma Mater, sitting in her chair, the big bronze statue. And that's where we used to make the stage. You know, we would be in front of her. Sometimes we blindfold her with the liberation flag, you know, all of those things. And I'm walking the campus, and it's late fall, so it's chilly. And I hear somebody go, "Psst, hey." And I look around, I don't see any of my students. It's chilly, you know, so they're not hanging out on the steps. I don't see any of my colleagues. I take another step, and someone goes, "Psst, hey, yo." And I look up, and it's the statue. And she looked at me and she said, "Oh, it's Professor Joseph now, huh?" Remember when you was trying to burn the place down, baby? So it didn't. I tell that jokingly, but the School of the Arts is very progressive. You know, we have the theater program, we have creative writing, we have theater, we have visual arts, and artists by nature are progressive. And the person that hired me was Lewis Cole, who was the chair, who was one of the leaders of the SDS, who used to bring me on campus, you know. So that was our way of saying, let's see what trouble we can make with the arts now and see how we can fire the minds of these graduate students who are coming here, you know, wanting to be filmmakers.
Great. All right, we're gonna talk about the current firing up of the arts that you're doing. But I want to just jump into the chat for a second because it's filling up. Daryl Tukes is here and says thank you. Rick,
hey Daryl.
Yeah.
Daryl and I go way back to kind of like diapers together. Brilliant, talented musician, social activist. That's my brother, like no other.
Rick Cummings says hello.
Hey Rick. Oh man, this is just like family gathering.
Yeah, man, it's always like this. They see
talented
your name.
Writer, very talented.
John Harris and Zakiya Modeste, Charles Gray.
Hey Zakiya, everybody's here. Okay.
Let's see who's here. Fridi Vede or Vide, Fride, Fride. I'm trying to get it right.
Yeah, absolutely.
EJ McAdams says such a great book. Thanks, Jamal, for sharing your stories. Tish Conglomerate.
EJ.
Yeah.
A brother, a wonderful progressive educator, activist, great poet. What's up, EJ?
Right. Tish Conglomerate is with us.
Yes.
Let's see who else is here. Jamie Leo is with us. Excellent. Turko Ono, Samantha Firestein, Ethan Hirschenfeld, a great singer and comedian. Stax Cordero's with us. Barry Sacamano.
Stax.
Stax.
I thought about you the other day, sister. We're going to get up. There's another gifted musician, writer, actress. Okay.
Your posse has shown.
My posse is here. We're ready. We're
mixing it up. Jack Fuller with us. Charles Massey's with us. Wally Green, who's going to be on my show on Friday. Wally's amazing, Jamal. You'd love him. He's one of the co-founders of Spin Ping Pong, and he escaped the gang warfare in Brooklyn, and now is a world-class championship table tennis player. He's amazing. Colin Joseph Wolfgang Mahar is here. Scott Irwin's here. Let's get some questions now, people. Menon is here. Nofi Mitchell is here. Laura Bob.
Hey, Nofi, Menon, I'm telling you, everybody. Menon worked at, Nofi's a City Kid alum, brilliant singer. Menon volunteered at Impact. The posse is really in the house.
Jeffrey Nunez is here. Tom
Jeffrey.
Thibault Linders.
Jeffrey dropped science in our Impact Town Hall the other day. Jeffrey was dropping class struggle science.
Oh, I was with you guys on Saturday. Yeah.
You were there. That's right. Jeffrey was talking about institutionalized racism. Yeah. We have to keep talking about these institutions.
Tom Thibault Linder's with us. A young lord is in the house. Santos Rivera. We got a young lord.
Out to the people. Pa'lante, siempre pa'lante.
Yeah, baby. Let's see. So we got a couple comments here. The presidency is a duty to care and not just for donors, but for all of us. Biden said today. Tom Linder says that's a key phrase. Laney Cook says organize, strategize, plan. Mark David Laney Cook.
The Panther Baby would not be a book without Laney's help.
Really?
Or
Great.
Tupac legacy. So Laney knows. That's my sister. Yes.
Thank you, Laney. This is a fun part of the show, just to shouting out the love of the people that
shout out is the love is amazing.
Mark Birnbach, who you know from We Are Family.
Yeah. Mark, peace, bro.
Mark's got a question. How has the fight changed since the original Black Panther movement, or has it not changed? And what values remain true for the Black Panther mission that the movement and organization were founded on?
If you ask any Panther to distill down what into one sentence, everything that we believed. And we studied. We had the 10-point program and 26 rules of discipline, and read Malcolm and Frantz Fanon and Mao. They will answer the question like this: guaranteed. We were taught to have an undying love for the people, and that's what animates a true freedom fighter, a true activist, is that you love people more than yourself. You understand that you can't enjoy a meal if you know people is going hungry, not truly enjoy it, or truly enjoy whatever freedom you perceive, unless other people had it. And so you fight in solidarity for that, in terms of that change. So I see that love. That the protest started with a lot of anger, but now you're seeing a lot of love. People are still indignant, angry, furious, and can't what will not allow it to happen anymore. But look at the rainbow coalition of people who are out each and every day. These are brothers and sisters who are out. I don't even want to use the word ally. We talked about what is a white
Yeah,
savior
yeah.
versus the white ally. These are white brothers and sisters, brown brothers and sisters. We have international brothers and sisters who say this is a struggle for human rights. So that is the same. We have social media. There's a journalist who was arrested, Omar Jimenez, on camera when he was covering from CNN,
Yeah.
when he was covering the protest. And when he came out, they asked him, they said, have things changed? Have you noticed that things have changed historically? And he gave a brilliant answer. He says, things haven't changed. It's just now that they're being filmed. So the power of the telephone and the power of social media has allowed us to get the work out instantly and to rally people instantly. That's powerful. That's true. We have to do that. In between, we need to do those political education classes. We need to do those programs. We need to empower those people in the communities so that they have political education and political awareness, so that there's a groundswell in those communities, so it doesn't feel like protesters are marching through the community, but there's a groundswell of people that are participating and understand the biggest issues. So when someone comes out and they instinctively are enraged, a young brother or sister, and they instinctively are attacking the symbols of their oppression, right? That police station or that store, and they're deciding that I didn't get any stimulus money, I've got nothing to lose, so this is my own stimulus. I understand that rage. What makes them frontline revolutionaries, when it happens again, and sadly, we know this will happen again. We wish this would be the end, but we have to build those programs in between so that next time they understand, hey, instead of looting a Target, we're going to be part of a general strike where we boycott Target, Amazon, all those big corporations, and shut the economy down. You're more worried about the economy than people safely getting through the COVID-19 epidemic. You're more worried about fueling, these stimulus dollars to big corporations and big companies and big banks than you are getting to the people that need it. You've shown us what you care about the most. You've also shown us your weak spot. The power of that boycott, from the Montgomery bus boycott to the boycott. A lot of people forget in the 80s what the student movement did worldwide in terms of boycotting any companies that were doing business with South Africa. That connected with the internal fight of the African National Congress and other organizations within South Africa. The international economic pressure with the internal civil unrest is what made the South African government like, oh, wait a minute now. Now we're losing money. Now we're going to be shut down. Apartheid was good for business at one point, the same way racism was good for business. Slavery was a business. Let's be clear. It wasn't just about hating Black people. That was the ideology or the marketing of slavery, but it was good for business. Now you're making police brutality and racism bad for business. We've got to back up and take a good look. So we hope that those lessons can be learned. I hate to be like the OG revolutionary saying, when we did A, B, and C, because the young revolutionaries of today are doing so many things right and communicating at lightning speed. It's got to be that work in between in the communities that needs to happen as well.
The thing you do not apologize for anything. The fact that what you're giving us not only history but a plan. You're giving us a plan and a list of action items right here. It's very clear. It's 10:30, which means the show's officially over unless you'll do a little overtime with us. Just a couple minutes.
Let's hang out. Let's do it.
Right. We got some good people in the house, and I think they're ready for some. So the only way to do this is to play a little game called 5 Objects. That's how we kick off overtime. I'll show you 5 objects. I've been stuck in the house for 3 months. I'm noticing things I hadn't seen before. Why do I still have this? Oh, thank God I do. So now I'm going to show you a few of those things, and just give me a quick thought, gut reaction, or a story. Let's see. The first one is this.
Oh, immigrant. Was it say immigrant? Yeah. So yeah, my gut reaction is that we should all wear that hat, because the only people in this country that are not immigrants are First Nation people, Native American folks. And if we did that and understand that this was our roots, it would make us much harder to look at somebody else other than our brother or our sister.
I don't know which superhero this is, but what do you think of when you see that?
Well, that's the Flash,
This
you
is the
know,
Flash.
and yeah, that's the Flash,
Okay.
and that makes me think that every person in the Black community has to have that superpower because at one point or another you had to run from a cop.
Oh, oh. All right. Here's another one. Number 3, boxing glove.
Boxing, this makes me think of not only the great Muhammad Ali, right? But this makes me think about when you're in a fight and you haven't had any training and somebody punches you in the nose, your first instinct is just like your nose is running and you just want to swing wild and get that person back, right?
Yeah.
But then someone takes you to a boxing gym or a karate dojo and you learn technique. And so you get hit in the nose and you go, that was a good shot. They're not going to get me again. Or when they throw it again, this is how I'm going to counter. And that's exactly what we need to do with our young people in the community, in the movement. We need to train them. They need to know the history of movements, the history of demonstrations. I'm talking about a case study. Like, how did that boycott happen? How did the AIDS awareness movement go from it being a death sentence to changing the laws and getting the research? That was activism. So that the next time this happens, the next time we get punched in the nose, we fall back on what? Us, technique.
Here's a little theme. You premeditated this one.
Oh, there it is. He's the greatest of all time. One of the greatest days of my life was when I got to meet Muhammad Ali in person. And I was working with the movie producer, and he had a friend who was another producer that was upstairs with Muhammad Ali. And we were having lunch at a hotel downtown. And he said, Jamal, do you want to meet Muhammad Ali? You know, and I was, yeah, yeah, of course. Did Ray Charles want to see Georgia? Take me upstairs. And Ali was sitting. He had just been interviewed by a German film crew, and he was looking great. He was had just turned 60, and he was moving a little slower, and he was shaking a little bit. And they introduced him, and when it was my turn, and he said, "Champ, this is Jamal Joseph. Um, he was a leader of the Black Panther Party, and he's a professor at Columbia University." And Ali reaches up real slow, and he takes my hand, and he says, "So you ain't as dumb as you look." And does it get any better than being dissed by Muhammad
Right?
Ali?
That's the sweetest compliment ever. All right.
Exactly.
Number 5. Here it is. The last one.
A symbol.
It's a symbol.
Yeah, a symbol. Well, that makes me think that it is time to hit that symbol and make it a clarion call for people's struggle. We do it every day at 7 o'clock when we clap because we care. And I think we have to keep clapping when we care, but I also think we have to keep marching, as Dr. Martin Luther King said, keep being those drum majors for freedom as we march and protest. And remember, our strongest weapon is unity, and unity comes out of love.
You've said this to me for over a decade now. We've known each other for about just over a decade, and you've always said this to me about loving that place. It's about loving people and loving community, and then you go out and do your thing, and that's the baseline. And I love it. I love it. Going to the chat for a real quick second here. Lainey Cook says pancake program. Anthony Randall is with us. Turko Ono has a question. How many states did you visit and protest in? And did you ever have situations that you feared for your life? How did you handle the fear?
So when I was on bail in the Panther 21 case, and Afeni Shakur was part of that case, Tupac's mom, Afeni became my big sister the day I walked in the Panther office, and she tried to get me to go home because I was too young, and I refused. And then she says, well, I'm gonna keep my eye on you. And she truly did for her whole life. And that's how, I was Tupac's goddad. But
Yeah.
the 21 was 21 men and women who were leaders of the Panther Party, from citywide leadership to just being head of the high school cadre, as I was. And the reasoning was that if you cut off the head, the body will die. So all of us were arrested. Bail was set at $100,000, which was in 1969. That's a lot of money today. In those days, it was a ransom, and we were facing 300 plus years. Conspiracy, thought police, people came from everywhere, not only the attorneys who came and volunteered their time, but students and everyone to support the Panther 21. We were eventually acquitted of all charges, but it was a time it looked like we would get life in prison. So as a spokesman for the Panther 21, I think I had to have gone to at least 30 states and cities. And it was amazing that every place you go, you could talk about this power of the people. And you always learned as a speaker to come a few hours early, take a walk through the community with someone who was there, find out what was going on, and talk about that in your speech. And then also be ready to connect those people that brought you, students or community workers, whatever it was, to the larger movement. A lot of people didn't know other people were feeling the same way. Social media helps us with that. There have been a number of occasions where I've been in houses where the police surrounded it and it looked like this was going to be it. And what always keeps you going in a moment like that is knowing that that you tried to live for something, you know. And as cliche as it sounds, or as used as it sounds, it's true that if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. And that if you're not willing to stand up and die on your feet, then you'll be a slave on your knees. And those are the things that come to you kind of at those moments, right? And my real fear in those moments was never for me. There would often be children in that house. There'd be women in that house and wondering what we would do. What would be the strategy at a time like this? Someone would make that phone call, right? Someone would bang on the ceiling to the neighbors, those neighbors whose kids you've been feeding in the breakfast program. If your phone line was cut, they'd make the phone call, or a kid would get on the bike. The community would come, lawyers would come, and that thing that was supposed to be a massacre turned into a community standoff. So I can't speak enough to what the power of the people really means when you put the people in power. Last important thought. Afeni Shakur once asked me, what is the goal of the Panther Party? And I said, well, to recruit as many Panthers as we can. She says, no, that's not the answer. She says, the goal of the Black Panther Party and any real political organizer is to teach the people the possibility of struggle and liberation through their own actions. And if we do that, and if we empower them, then everybody becomes an activist and we make ourselves obsolete. The job of any true activist is to put themselves out of business because the people will be aware, the people will have power, and the people will be free.
You got another 24 hours to sit around and just keep. I'm watching the clock for you, so it's 10:49. You let me know when we're a couple minutes away from you got a bolt. Malik Maxwell is with us. My brother George Galinsky's with us, and my brother George's daughter, who's my niece Jenna, and my son Traeger. We're in Washington Square Park this evening, peacefully protesting, doing what you're talking about, doing what needs to be done.
Right on the Traeger, who's an Impact member. A lot of people don't know he's an Impact member, which makes you not only Impact volunteer. Kids love you, what you're teaching us in terms of acting and improv, but an Impact dad.
I love it. I love it. That phrase is great. You're an Impact dad. I love hearing that. Turko Ono's got another question. So first of all, how many years were you in prison altogether?
Well, I served a total of 9.5 years in prison. Not all in a straight set, but the last time was the longest, which was close to 7 years. And during that time,
that's what that's the question actually. He says, what did you do with the time while incarcerated?
I got the best advice when I got to Leavenworth Federal Prison, which was the toughest prison and the hardest time. And all the prisoner came to me and he said, young brother, you can serve this time or you can let this time serve you. And the light went off. And that's why I taught myself how to write. I got a few books and I practiced writing. I formed a theater company.
Tell me, you got to tell the story. Can you tell?
I'm going to tell the story. And I earned degrees. University of Kansas had a great program. And I earned degrees in psychology and sociology. But guys came to me because they knew I had done some theater as part of the Black arts movement. You know, I want to describe how vibrant those times were. You know, you did that work, you know, in the breakfast program and organizing in the community, and you did those community patrols. But then at night, there was places like the East Wind where the Last Poets were throwing down, and different, you know, progressive bands and jazz musicians were doing, and it was progressive theater. So I got a little training in acting and in poetry. So the guys came up to me and it was like, yo, man, you was a Panther? And I said, yeah. And it was like, and you know karate? And I was, you got to keep in mind, this is like pre-Facebook and everything. How did they know? I was like, I was a black belt. And I was like, yeah. It was like, uh-huh. It was like, you did the plays and shit out there, didn't you? And I was like, yeah. And he just looked at me and it was like, we'll do something for Black History Month. So I said, okay. And I went to the library, and the only plays that were there was Romeo and Juliet and A Raisin in the Sun. And A Raisin in the Sun, of course, is a classic Black play about a mother, a Black mother, a grandmother trying to save her family. And I went back to the guys and I said, man, I only found this play, but it's really, 3 or 4 strong women characters in it. I don't know if I could do it. And without missing a beat and with no smile, they said, man, it's cool, Jamal. Just look out on the yard, point out 3 or 4 dudes, we'll put a dress on them. And I was like, no, I don't think this is the answer. So this is literally how I wrote my first play. As I'm rehearsing with 2 guys who were who were there. They didn't really want to be there, but Mr. Cody, who like ran the prison, said, you're Jamal's cast, right? Now prisons are segregated. Men segregate themselves. That part is like you see on the movies. The Latino prisoners are one section, the Black prisoners, the white prisoners, and the Latino section had a gang called La M, the Mexican Mafia. They were not to be messed with. And when they came knocking on your door, it was no beat up. It was like you were getting stabbed. They came to kill someone, right? And I'm rehearsing with my 2 guys, and I'm trying to teach them improv. And one guy was named Death, the other was named Struck. One guy looked like Death, the other looked like somebody struck him in the face with a bat. And they do the improv, and I go, freeze, freeze. That was great, brothers. Death, oh man, that was good. Struck, you did a great improv. You said you didn't like him. You were going to stab him 4 times. Struck, you said you didn't like him either. You're going to bash his skull in with a dumbbell. I was really in the moment. Now, when the 2 of you were exchanging stuff, that's called dialogue. When someone's talking the way I'm kind of rambling, that's called a monologue. Repeat after me. Monologue, dialogue. And they kind of looked at each other and it was like, I wasn't dialoguing. I'm going to kill this fool for real. I was like, no. I jumped in between. Let's go back to our center, plant your feet, breathe, you're a tree. Come on, work with me, guys. Breathe, you're a tree. At that very moment, the 2 leaders of the Mexican Mafia, La M, come in. These were badass dudes. They had about 4 or 5 murders since they were in prison. Their attitude was like, I'm already doing life, Holmes. Take my license, I don't care. Bad dudes, Diesel from the Way Pile, tats all over their body. Tito and Raphael, they came and they sit down and they're watching. We all had the same thought. Tito and Raphael have come to our little rehearsal space. Who are they here to kill? Now my guys are into it. Okay, Jamal, look, I'm a tree. I'm a palm tree. I'm swaying. I'm looking at the corner of my eye, and Tito, the leader, looks really upset. And every time I glance at him, he looks more upset. Finally, after about 10 minutes, he jumps up, he points at me. He was like, yo, S.A., we got to talk. And he pulls me to the side. I was like, damn, it's me. What's my beef? I just got here. He pulls me to the side and he says, yo, Holmes, I've been hearing about what you've been doing, S.A., and I had to come here to check it out for myself. And I need you to listen to me real effing good, S.A. That guy you working with, that effing guy, yo, Holmes, he's not feeling his character.
Yes.
True story. So I said, why don't you get in? And he was great. And before you knew it, I rewrote the play. Some of the white brothers came, and we had the only multicultural court in the prison.
Awesome.
And that's when I realized the power of the creative arts and transformation.
Amazing. And that is going to take us to your recent film, Chapter and Verse. So those of you who don't know, this is out there. It's probably on Netflix or Amazon or Hulu. I'm not sure. It's got to be out there.
Yes, it is.
Story of a guy who comes out of prison and has to struggle with the demons of the past and also reintegrating himself in society. That's my take on it.
Absolutely. And a wonderful appearance that plays a parole officer like we've never seen before.
Yeah.
Robert Galinsky, you're in this film.
I got a moment in this one. It's never a clean give. But then
I wrote this with Daniel Beatty, who's an amazing writer. I directed it, and he stars in it. But Loretta Devine gives an amazing performance, and all of you fans of Power, and Hardwick, he's in the film as well.
And then this is Impact Repertory Theater out of Harlem. It's Oscar nominated for a song in the movie August Rush. And I just wanted to show some of these pictures because not only were you developing this union of different people in prison, but you're doing this now with youth in Harlem. Can you tell us a little bit about Impact? These are a couple pictures from a benefit we did together.
Well, Impact is a leadership training and creative arts program. Because what we do in Impact, Jeffrey might be in that. Is that Jeffrey, you in Netflix? You'll chat us up and let us know.
Is that him right here? Behind
Yeah. Yeah. So with Impact, we say the I stands for inspiration, motivation, preparation, activism, commitment, and teamwork. And so we talk about social issues. Last Saturday, Robert, you were there. We talked a lot about what's going on with the protests, with Brother Floyd's murder. How do we respond to that? And that's where our material comes from. The spoken word, the poetry, the dances, but also there's leadership training that happens. And so we're so proud of Impact members who have gone to college and grad school, who are themselves now educators, artists, activists, working in medicine, working in law, community organizers. That's what we say. Everyone has this ability. If you combine your artistry with your activism, you're an artivist. So we've been creating artivists to go out and change the world.
All right, this is where part of the show where I ask my audience, we're going to wind up because I know you got.
And people, if they're interested in Impact, please email chat Robert up. He'll send me, and then I'll give you the links to the right people to contact so you can understand about auditions and being part of it. If you have children, younger brothers and sisters, kids in your building, kids that you mentor, we want you.
This is the website, and we just dropped it into the chat as well. But
Shout out to Impact's board, our co-founders, Vosa Rivers, Joyce Joseph, Mary Jane, who's our director of development, Lainey Cook, who's our COO, Susan Pensner, president of our board, Dietrich Bolden, Carlton, artistic director, Malik, Coley, all of the Impact family.
Great people. All right. Next 3 to 4 minutes, we're going to finish up, everybody. So now's the time to drop your thank yous and your kudos and your love into the chat so I can kick it back to Jamal. Daryl Tukes is getting us started. He said, the world is watching us, gentlemen. Thank you. Power to the people. Linda Tucker says, thank you, brother, for your insight and wisdom. Barry Gecko from Hawaii says, thanks for doing this. Heather Prescott's with us. Ray J's with us.
Ray J.
Yeah.
I saw Ray J, co-founder of Impact, our original artistic director. Forgive me, Ray J. I have those older Panther moments sometimes. You got to shout out Raymond Johnson when you talk about Impact.
Okay. Laura J. Bauer from America's Georgia is in the house. Heather Prescott's in the house. Callie Greenberg's in the house. Stax Cordero says, I'm on it, Jamal. Great interview. This is the greatest time to push your book. Yes. There are a few more questions, but we're going to just go with some shout outs because I know you got to go. The seeds of resilience are planted in the way we process the negative events of our lives. That's a quote my brother just dropped, my brother Andrew. Thank you, Andrew.
Yes.
Let's see. Okay, I don't see any real questions here. I see a lot of EJ McAdams says, thank you, Jamal. Kathleen, Lila, Jane, we're here with me, and they share their thanks too.
Oh man, thank you. That is a beautiful, beautiful family. Thank you. Much love to all y'all.
Nelson Kim says, thanks, Jamal. Much love.
Nelson Kim, my brother, Columbia University alum. This is Nelson. That's my brother. Hit me up, Nelson. We got to get together.
There's way more than I can even read through, but all these will be left in the chat on the archive. Turco Ono says, great job, Jamal. Best of luck with everything you're doing. Amy also says, great work. You're saving lives. Agree 100%. So I want, and Carrie Ravelli Lavalli says, always touching the lives of youth in so many ways that last a lifetime. So let's just finish it up with a couple of quick questions. We're on a Zoom call. The phenomenon of Zoom has kind of taken over, and this is a question I ask everybody that's on my show. Are you wearing pants?
Yeah, I am. I
Okay.
actually, you know what's very funny for me? I don't feel right with the Zoom call unless I am kind of showered and dressed and stuff. And just to prove it, I'm going to stand up
Yes.
and show you I am wearing my not only just pants, but my good jeans, my freshly pressed jeans. So
Oh,
yes, I am.
right on. You got to do it for the interview. Excellent.
Yes.
Um, anything besides reading Panther Baby and chapter and verse that you think we should watch? A documentary, a TV show? Are you binging on anything that you think is worth watching, even if it's just for sheer entertainment or for education?
Yeah, uh, uh, please, if you haven't read the autobiography of Malcolm X, read that. Read James Baldwin, all of Baldwin, but The Fire Next Time. He was such a prophet. And if you look at the documentary about James Baldwin that was done, he was so powerful. Um, there was a documentary about the Panthers directed by Stanley Nelson called Black Panthers, Vanguard of the Revolution. Um, Powerful, powerful. If the best superhero of the film last year wasn't a Marvel movie, it was actually Harriet, about Harriet Tubman. It is an origin story of life that will empower and do everything. And remember, the story of Harriet is someone who got free, but could not, when we talk about love and activism, had to go back and free other people. And to this point of education, Harry has this famous quote where she said, I freed 1,000 slaves. I probably could have freed 5,000 more if they knew they were slaves. So that educating to liberate is so important.
Amazing. All right, last question, and then we're out of here. Call to action. You know, we're in the thick of it right now, and you've been through a lot of this, and you've explained to us in the past 50 minutes so many amazing tactics and ways of looking at the world. Can you give us a call to action?
Yeah, that call to action is to gather. And I know social distancing, we can't be in the rooms together. Be aware that people are hearing everything that you say and do. We think that when we get into a little rant with someone over social media that it's just us. But what destroyed the Black Panther Party was a program called the FBI's counterintelligence program, COINTELPRO. They infiltrated the organization. They had bugging devices. Sometimes they had court orders and it was legal. Sometimes they didn't. But they used that intelligence to turn people against each other, to turn organizations against each other, to turn Panthers against each other. So beware when we get into these beefs and then somebody else jumps into the circle and you're giving so much time and energy to that gossip and to that anger. And sometimes you think it's somebody who's a brother and sister in the movement in Chicago, but it's somebody in the CIA office in Langley, Virginia, doing this to incite you to destroy your movement. So be careful about that. Make sure that you can develop as much as you can a relationship based on not what a person says, but what they do, and judge them on that practice. And get as much education as we can so that we're spending a lot of time talking about whose position is correct. A lot of these arguments that happen on social media about who's right and who's wrong. So much can be learned by studying history and doing a real thing. How did this takeover happen? I mean, really, how did it happen? Activists has to watch that the way athletes watch footage, game footage of other teams in old games and replaying that. You'll see a basketball player that hit a winning shot to win the national championship. And he said, how did you feel about that shot? And what does that play invariably says? I knew it was going in because I practiced that shot 20,000 times. What we practice in terms of what we're going to do with our movement and what we practice in terms of love, be that person so that if someone comes and says, Robert was saying something terrible about you, Jamal, you know? And I was like, no, Robert didn't say that. You might be saying that, somebody may have planted that, but we have a relationship where if there's something wrong, he will come to me directly because love doesn't have to be perfect, but it's always honest, right? So I want people to walk in that spirit. And as Che Guevara said, that great quote, at the risk of sounding ridiculous, please know that revolutionaries are guided by great feelings of love. And as we say in Impact, keep a positive thought, because a positive thought cannot be denied. Peace.
Peace, brother. Thank you. Love you.
Thank you.
Thank
Love you.
Talk to you.